boxing, you're gonna love this.
Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the BoxNation podcast. I'm your host Dev Sani, and this week I am joined by a man who is a no-weight world champion with no titles won across any weight divisions. But what he has won are the hearts and the minds of the British boxing public, a champion of punditry and boxing journalism. It is of course BoxNation's beloved Steve Lillis.
What an intro. They get better every week, Dev. You
like
top that for next week as well, mate. You top that. You go away for a week and you think.
I thought I'd sort of kind of beat you down first initially by saying, your in-ring credentials are sparse, but then bring you back up by what you have won. And how you doing, Steve?
I'm good, my friend.
Good to hear. So this week we hear from Hall of Fame boxing promoter Frank Warren. We hear from the charismatic and quite hilarious WBO World Middleweight Champion Billy Joe Saunders. We look back on a great weekend for Carl Frampton and look ahead to a huge weekend of boxing live on BoxNation. There are 3 live shows in the space of 24 hours. It is just what we do here at BoxNation. So stick around and enjoy the show. Promoter Frank Warren held a press conference earlier in the week to look ahead to Billy Joe Saunders' WBO World Middleweight title defence against Martin Murray on June 23rd at the O2 Arena. Frank was also fresh from a fantastic sellout show in Belfast with Carl Frampton, so Steve Lillis was dispatched, camera and mic in tow, and he grabbed us an interview.
Frank, first of all, can we just look back at Carl Frampton? He might not have looked so great in his first fight under you against Horacio Garcia. The weekend, there could have been no complaints.
Oh, he got no complaints from me. I mean, he got no complaints from me from the first fight. He picked a tough opponent. But the second one, I thought he boxed a very composed performance, a very calculated performance, and he did what he had to do. And he done it against a very dangerous guy who's got a pedigree, who's a future Hall of Famer, there's no doubt about that. And even in the 11th round when he clipped Carl with that great shot, showed you what, he was there, he still got all that. So I think Carl done really well, and I'm extremely delighted for him and delighted for him.
I mean, he's happy with Jamie Moore, he seems very happy with you. His third fight with you is open air show in Windsor Park. Can we all pack our bags for August?
Get your bags packed. We're sorting out the date, but we're doing it, and obviously got to sort out the opponent, but we're going there. That's going to happen.
Will it be a world title or interim world title?
We're working on it. Obviously at the moment we're seeing where we are with Valdez, and obviously we've got the fight on in Leeds on the 19th of May between Lee Selby and Josh Warrington. So there's lots of things we've got to look at there before we make our decision. It'll be on.
One question on Selby Warrington. I understand tickets are flying every day.
They've done well, yeah. I mean, I think they've run about 20,000 tickets there now, so it's going to be a great atmosphere. We've still got, over a month now to go, or a month to go. So I'm looking forward to that. And Josh has got the Kaiser Chiefs. They're going to play him into the ring. I mean, don't get any better for that for a Leeds man, does it? So it's going to be a good atmosphere over there.
And then we're on to O2 Arena, Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray. How hard a fight is it for Billy?
I think it's a tough fight for Bill because, Martin's, you can look at his pedigree. I mean, he's been in with some really good quality. He's been in the top echelon of the middleweight division, fighting those guys for a long time, and gone up to super middleweight to challenge. It's his last chance to win a world title. He's been very unlucky in the past. There's a couple of decisions that may have gone his way, which he didn't get because he was away from home. This time round, he knows what he's got to do. He knows Bill's top of his game. He knows that Bill's focused. But as he said at this press conference today, like he felt like, and I know where he's coming from, but I was overlooking him, which I certainly am not. I know this is going to be a tough fight with him. It's going to be a tough fight.
Was there any hope of getting Golovkin Billy Joe in June once Canelo got his ban? I know there was talk of it.
No. There was always. I always felt, and I felt on record saying that I always felt that fight would go ahead in September. I mean, it's a farce, really, but that's what it is.
What will be the situation if Billy wins this? What will be the situation with him for the rest of the year?
In September.
You've spoken of catchweight fights against Groves, DeGal.
We want a big fight for Bill, and there's a big, and there's. There is a big money fight for him and his opponent, and we want to make one for him. So there's a lot of opportunities for Bill, but he's got to win this one first.
Now, Saunders' fight with Martin Murray was postponed from April the 14th after the champion sustained a hand injury. So Steve Lillis asked him how his hand was holding up.
Yeah, the hand's good. A bit of swelling, but nothing really. You got to be 100% going in for these sort of fights, and I had to take the advice and call it off. The only date we got was a date we got the 23rd of June, which was 12 weeks back, which is a bit of a pain. But at the end of the day, the fight's still going on, it's still happening, so it is what it is.
Did you a few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago think you might be getting Gennady Golovkin in June?
Do you know what? I've been round the block now a couple of times, and I didn't get that fight when I wasn't looking in the best of shape. So I knew my last performance that that's definitely hurt a few ears up and opened a few eyes, and I wasn't 100% on it now. I mean, I'm Martin Murray, and that was it. I mean, Golovkin, if he was going to box me, he'd have boxed me last year. When I was really not in love with boxing, when I just wanted to forget about it all. But he didn't, so, I always have Martin Murray. I won't hold my breath on none of them.
You were talking on the top table there, press conference, that maybe, or Frank Warren, you're promoting about maybe super middleweights. Is there a fear that people like Golovkin and Canelo will not fight you?
I personally think. Listen, I'm not saying they're scared or they're running or not, but listen, let's look at the real world. I'm not good for business for them. I'm a sticker and mover. I'm a boxer, a very good boxer at that. Probably one of the best in the world, one of the slickest in the world, and that's not good for their business. That don't bring blood, sweat, and tears and a tear up and that. To them, they're not getting their 50s and 60 millions for that fight. If Golovkin boxed me, what, he'd get 8, 9 million, 10 million. If he boxed Alvarez, 50, 40. So it's a big difference on the business side.
A lot of people make you a big favourite against Martin Murray, but what does Martin Murray bring?
First of all, I say favourite's a load of rubbish. What a bookie say, what somebody's suggesting and thinking. I say that Martin will bring a tough fight. He'll bring a bit of bulliness in the ring, but I will make him work hard from the get-go.
Do you think you just try and set the pace and just stay on top of you all night?
Listen, he can try and set the pace. Many's tried. If he sets the pace, I will pick up to my pace and I'll make him work at my pace. In every one of my fights, I dictate the pace. I do what I want to do when I want to do it. It's how easy do I want to make this fight on myself and how hard it's going to be.
Also hearing that you're getting blocked on Twitter by fighters now. What have you done this time?
I'm just getting blocked by everyone, Steve.
Who's blocked you anyway?
No one, David Lemieux and, Coogan's brother.
Who's that?
Amir Khan. He blocked me. But listen, it is what it is. I don't care. It's only Twitter. They're not man enough to come to your face and talk to you. It's men for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Martin Murray seems to have a lot more respect for him than you would maybe had Lemieux before the fight.
It's not like the respect, it's that, you do things for reaction. I've won fights before I even got in the ring. I've won it before I climb in the ropes. I know the job's still got to be done, but mentally it goes a long way. And Martin's been around the block. If I thought I could get under his skin, I would get under his skin. But I know that someone like him, he's laid back, he's chilled, he's a family man. Nothing can get under his skin. He's going in, he wants his money, and he's getting out. And that's it.
You made it clear over the last couple of weeks your thoughts on Canelo's ban. If you was offered the fight, would you take it, or would you be the fighter who's a martyr and say, I'm staying out of a box and not fighting a drugs cheat?
No, listen, I said it in a press conference. It's business at the end of the day, and that's good business. So 100% I'll fight him, yeah.
Would you want to beat him up more for cheating?
I just want to win, that's all. I just go to win, that's all. Win. The W, that's what counts in boxing. Win, ugly, smart, fantastic, horrible, win is winning. That's it.
Do you feel you're a bit of I know you're young, a bit of an old timer now, given that your Olympics was 10 years ago now?
You're only as old as you feel, aren't you? I'm certainly closer to 30 than I'm not, so maybe when I'm 30, ask me that question, I'll feel old then.
No, you're still young, so you've been about a long time at a very high level.
Yeah, listen, I've been around at a very high level for a long time, but never been put down, I don't think out of my 26 pro fights, nobody can name 5 shots which landed and rocked me or hurt me or even landed a punch on me clearly where you think, not one. So I'd probably name 5 out of full 26 fights. Have a look through them all.
Do you ever get fed up with boxing? Do you still love it as much as you did when you was an 18-year-old, you know, in the Olympics?
No, listen, to be honest with you, I think that, you know, you look at where I've come from and what I've done. I've achieved everything I dreamed of. You know, so now I'm at the business end of it. And I think sometimes that, you know, you just want to get involved in the big fights. And sometimes, it's about the money, but you don't think of the money. You just want to be involved in these big fights. Now I want to test myself to see how good I am. Do you know what I mean? Imagine if, you know, I growed old and I retired undefeated, but I never ever boxed Canelo or Golovkin, and forget about the money for a minute. And then thinking, was I the best? Was I best or was I not? So it's just, I would love to test myself.
But have you made your money now? I mean, I look at your portfolios of cars and it suggests you've done pretty well out of boxing. Listen,
I earn more money in property than boxing, so I've well achieved what I wanted to achieve from day one. It's about the money, because it is, but you know, I want to test myself. Now I really want to see how good I am. I really do. I always said when I'm 30 I'm done. So I want to see how good I am. I don't want to go over my peak like I believe Golovkin has now, and then see how good I am. I want to see it now. I'm in my peak. 28, strong, fit, young.
So the next couple of years about becoming a great and then walking away?
You know, I look at Joe Saunders and all the others, and I think, you know, he's done very, very well. That's the thing what I like to do.
Well, Steve, we've heard from Frank Warren, we've heard from Billy Joe Saunders. Now let's hear from you. The middleweight division seemed to be on standby while the world awaited the results of the Canelo's drug ban hearing. Everything now seems to be falling into place. So do you think maybe there's a danger that Saunders has got distracted and he's overlooking Martin Murray?
I mean, look, he says he wasn't distracted by the talk of him and Golovkin, but it's hard not to be distracted. You know, there was talk of the fight happening a couple of weeks ago. I was with Martin Murray a few weeks ago, and he was fully expecting Billy Joe to go ahead and fight Golovkin instead of him. And he wasn't blaming him because he knows they're the sort of fights you dream of. But everything's fallen into place now. There seems to be some sort of shape to the division yet again. It's not totally clear, but you know, Golovkin's got his fight coming up next week in Los Angeles. Billy Joe Saunders has got his fight. I think Murata has just defended his regular version of the WBO belt. So there is activity in the division. What I'm wondering, though, there's a lot of talk that, and Frank and Billy were both very bullish of it at the press conference on Tuesday, where they said, oh, no, they're going to fight in September. And then I look at comments from Spike O'Sullivan, who's turned down $400,000 to fight Golovkin, money he's never seen before, and he sort of suggested in tweets there's a bigger payday to come for him in a few months' time. He's now with Golden Boy, and I'm sort of semi-wondering, are Golden Boy planning to slap Canelo in with Spike O'Sullivan in September, and maybe let Golovkin wait until September or even next May, which would maybe allow Billy Joe then to have his unification. That's just me and my conspiracy theories from reading Spike O'Sullivan's tweets, because I'll tell you something, it's not a fight you price yourself out at $400,000, because I don't think Spike's got near that before in his life. So I'm wondering if Spike is fully expecting something else a few months later down the line. It's certainly not going to be a rematch with Billy Joe Saunders, who beat him handily. He's now with Golden Boy, and I'm wondering, is that going to be Canelo Alvarez?
Well, if you remember, there was talk a couple of months ago of Danny Jacobs fighting Spike O'Sullivan, and Spike was up for it, and it looked like it was then turned down by his management team, or Golden Boy, because they had something bigger lined up. The bigger fight than Danny Jacobs is only Canelo or Golovkin, maybe David Lemieux, but you would think Canelo. So I think there is some weight to your conspiracy theory there, Steve Lillis.
Yeah, because it's the only fight worth more than $400,000. Now, the people around Spike O'Sullivan are not going to turn $400,000 down, in my opinion, unless there's something further down the line. If they have, and there's nothing down the line, they've made a mistake, because I should think for his fight on the Friday night, 4th of May, he's got a fight, I think, on ESPN. He must probably only get him $40,000.
So Saunders, as you said, looks like he's going to fight in September. I mean, even I feel bad just like glossing over this Martin Murray fight. Martin Murray fight is going to be a tough fight. It's June 23rd.
It's a tough fight. I mean,
Of
you know,
course it is.
Martin got quite not upset. He stated his case
Yeah,
very
he kicked off a
fairly
bit, didn't he?
to Frank Warren yesterday. Won't got a kick off, but yeah, look, yeah, okay, he kicked off a bit. He stated his case very, what he thought. He thought Frank was wrong for backing Billy, and in turn, Frank defended himself very well. I thought it was a very interesting exchange of conversation between them, and you could see in Martin's voice yesterday. It was a sort of thing that would fire him up for the fight, perhaps a bit more than knowing that he's in the last chance saloon.
Yeah, and you got to think as well. He's been in camp with Carl Frampton, who's at the top of his game. He's just had a brilliant win. He's in camp with the likes of Jack Catterall. Yeah, Tommy Coyle, who's just had a good win as well.
Yeah.
This has got to rub off. I'm not sure how many. When he was just trained by Oliver Harrison in the past, what was the camp like then? Were there many other kind of champions? Was there iron sharpening iron in that camp?
You know what? That's a really good question there, because I'll tell you something. At Oliver's gym, and Oliver's a fantastic trainer. Oliver is a top trainer. We used to go down there often to do stuff with Martin Murray, because we've had quite a few of his fights on BoxNation.
Yeah.
And it was all kept, not apart, they all got on, everyone got on fine, they got on fine, everyone. But they'd all had their own time. Martin Murray would be in there by himself in the morning. When he would be going, he'd be getting changed to go home. Rocky Fielding would come in, and then oh, hello, see you, Rocky, I'm off. But now they're all together in that camp. They see a lot more of each other. Like Rocky sees more of Martin now when he's at Jamie Moore's camp than he did then. At Oliver's, it was all they were trained very much separately. Whereas they all get one-to-one time, but they all seem to be about at similar times. These guys, and Jamie Moore's built that sort of environment up. And I know Martin said at the press conference how well he benefited from going to Tenerife. And when they was on the train down yesterday morning, they're trying to work out a couple of weeks in Tenerife for themselves over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I mean,
months.
There's a new factor in terms of this version of Martin Murray, perhaps. So, it might work, it might not, but there's something different there.
There was something different in the press conference yesterday, and also he knows this is his fifth chance. I mean, look, he's been unlucky in a couple of those world title fights, but unlucky or not, very few guys get 5 cracks at a world title.
And it must be for a reason. So tell me about Billy Joe Saunders then. Should he overcome Martin Murray on June the 23rd at the O2 Arena? There's talk about a September fight. So hopefully, we're all crossing our fingers for that big middleweight unification. It happens with Gennady Golovkin, but, there is this thought that Golovkin is just going to fight Canelo and their rematch has just been delayed by a few months.
Yeah, well,
if it's not Golovkin, who does he fight?
Oh, it's going to be really tough to get a marquee name that's going to have that wow factor. You'd be looking at catchweight against someone like George Groves, who probably would have still been coming out of the Super 6, or a James DeGale catchweight fight. I know that fight was on the agenda a few months ago, certainly being thrown around at meetings, possibilities and stuff. At middleweight, you look at what fights are there where people will go, wow, we want to see that fight. The Jacobs fight isn't going to happen. It's very unlikely to happen right at this moment in time. The only one you're going to look at is maybe would a Jamal Charlo take off with an American audience? At middleweight, if you have a look, Dev, look at the middleweights. What fights are there apart from Golovkin and Canelo that would catch fire? Murata's a great fight, but it's for the trade for Britain and Japan. Jamal Charlo's getting the reputation now.
Yeah. Good win at the weekend. He got a good knockout.
He's going really well. That sort of thing would people well. This is a great fight. But the mega money fights, a Golovkin and Canelo, or a catchweight against one of the British super middleweights, a Groves, a DeGale, even a Callum, who's far bit, who's a ridiculous size. But then I'm saying that when we're looking purely at money fights, Eubank Jr. is out the water at the moment.
Or is he, Steve? Because that's what I was going to mention.
Yeah,
if Eubank Jr. puts up a few more videos of him punching bags and looking really good and says I'm back, and then calls out Billy Joe and says he was too small to go up to super middleweight, he should have stayed at middleweight. At middleweight, he can't be beaten. He calls out Billy Joe Saunders. That fight's there, I think.
Okay, it's there, but could you have it in September when Eubank's just come off a loss? Eubank got to go and get a good win.
Yeah.
In my opinion, to make it a bigger fight, a good win. That's something to me that's 12 months down the line, that fight. Don't rule it out at all. But for September, is it a marquee fight? He's on the home stretch. He admits himself. He's making money out of property. He, he seems to be financially secure. He wants to build his legacy, and legacies are built on beating guys like Gennady Golovkin, who's accepted as the number one in the division globally.
And Steve, a quick word on Golovkin, who's now fighting Vanes Martirosyan, a 154-pound fighter who's been inactive for a couple of years. I mean, how has this happened, Steve Litmus?
Well, wow. Well, the IBF aren't very happy about it, are they? For a start. Look, you know what? I give a pass out here to Gennady Golovkin because it's a fight that's been made at 3 weeks' notice. They had a TV date. It was a case of getting him out. This is the best they could find at 3 weeks. I'm not going to start hammering them for that. Perhaps it would have been a bit nice if they'd said, look, let's just forget Cinco de Mayo weekend for 1 year. Where it's in Los Angeles. Let's forget it. Let's just go and get a realistic fight for him in June or July in the summer. But obviously what it does tell you, there's something in the pipeline for later this year. But whether it's Canelo or whether it's Billy Joe, who knows? Let's hope it's Billy Joe Saunders, because I like to see Canelo miss out.
Yeah, of course. I think that the boxing world generally is a little bit miffed. I say a little bit. I think everyone's pretty peeved with how it's all turned out with Canelo, where he's got his ban, but it looks like it's just kind of all right, just come back and fight, get your big payday in September.
Exactly, Dev. In the sense, that when was the ban given out? Was it the 18th of April?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, more than a week ago. He was tested positive. The ban went out a week ago, and 7 days on, there's still different outrage and opinions on it.
So Billy Joe Saunders, though, Martin Murray, June 23rd. You've heard from Frank Warren. You've heard from Billy Joe Saunders. That fight will be live on BoxNation. Tickets are available at AXS.com. The fight's taking place at the O2 Arena. Your likes of Anthony Yard, Daniel Dubois, Ahara Davis will all feature on the undercard, and their opponents should be announced very soon. On Saturday night, the British welterweight champion and strong Vanes Martirosyan lookalike Bradley Skeet is on an away day. He travels to Bilbao, Spain to challenge Kerman, and please pardon my pronunciation, Kerman Leyahara, for the vacant EBU welterweight title. The team have just travelled out to Spain, and Steve Lillis grabbed a word with Bradley Skeet's trainer, Al Smith.
Alan, thanks for joining us on the podcast. We spoke to Bradley a couple of weeks ago about the fight with Kerman Lejaraja. What's your take on the fight?
Yeah, I think it's a really good fight. I think Kerman's a good fighter, very strong. Reminds me a bit like Steve Murray years ago, that type of fighter, Graham L. Not as rounded as Graham probably, but he's very strong, very aggressive, very fit, big for the weight. But I think Brad has everything to be able to beat people like this, and if he wants to move forward, which he does, he has to be able to beat Kerman Lejaraja.
What sort of sparring have you been getting in? Steve Murray's no longer about. I think he's got a job chopping trees down for a living as a surgeon. So what sort of sparring have you been getting in?
We use Sam Egan a lot. Sam and Brad have become real good friends since they boxed. So Sam was the first person to ring up and offer sparring. Now, I don't think you could get any better sparring than Sam Egerton for this fight. So we use Sam quite a bit. We use Johnny Garton, who's very similar, Kay Prosper, and a few other fighters in the gym.
How much of this big decision was it to go to Spain, where you're not going to get any favours after 12 rounds unless you're a long way clear?
I think Brad had to take this opportunity. There wasn't too many people queuing up to fight him, and if he carries on defending that British title any longer, he'll get beat, because you'll stay at the same level. That's no disrespect to anyone below us, but he needed to move on. It is a bit of a worry, but if he was going to go to America and fight for a world title, you're going to go abroad anyway. But Brad's super confident. He's grown into being a champion massively and believes in himself more than ever. I think he'll come through Saturday, with flying colours. I think this fight is very strong. As long as Brad don't get caught and we don't get completely robbed, I think we'll be okay. I don't think it'll be healthy for them to see an absolute terrible decision, because I think they're trying to make a big thing in the Basque Country for boxing.
Just pick on something you said there. You said Bradley will get beat if he stayed at British level. Do you notice something before recent domestic fights that maybe something was dipping in training that it's suddenly lifted now to say that?
No, not at all. It's just an old cliche. You know, if you stay at the same level too long, you end up getting beat. You know, he's done the British title thing. He's passed that. He's done all the rest of everything. So it's just that if you stay at the same level too long, the kid behind you is so hungry, and he won't be so hungry to box for the British title. He's won it outright, but he's so much more hungry to box for the European. There's nothing dipped. He's at the prime of his fighting career. You know, he's not going to get any better than he is now. So if you're going to take an opportunity, you've got to take it with both hands.
And since you got in Spain, is everybody looking after you out there well? There's none. They're not trying to take you to dodgy restaurants or anything, are they?
No, not at all. I'm a little bit old hand at that. You know, I've been in a away fight many times with Ruben Grunewald and Farnell and Matthew Barney and Dean Francis and Sam Webb and Anthony Small, and I've always come out victorious, and we recently bragged with Sam Egerton. So I think I played the away corner quite a few times and got a good record on it. But no, you know, I know all the tricks, and we've done what we need. But the promoter is extremely helpful and very polite.
And you've got Big Bod out there looking after you, haven't you?
Well, yeah, he's looking after Brad. I don't know if he's looking after me. Ever since they said the watermelon, I said that this kid will open up like a watermelon. My face has been in the national newspaper more than Brad's. So.
Oh well, you better keep quiet at a press conference whenever it is this week.
Yeah, they said we've already skinned the bear before it's been killed. So I actually sent a picture over of a bear over to the promoter saying we don't skin all bears. I sent Paddington Bear, so I don't think they found that funny either, but I'm just trying to be humorous.
Yeah, maybe they don't get your South London humour, Alan, but I get it.
Yeah, I think it's just Brad's so confident, and including myself, I'm known for being a little bit cautious with fighters, but I'm really 100% confident, and I've got no worries about Brad not, coming home with a belt.
Now, Steve, I love that Bradley Skeet is taking this fight. He's done the British champion thing. He's won the belt outright. He's fulfilled that dream. But it's time to kick on, get a new belt, and make a statement.
Yeah, it is. There was a lot of disappointment in Bradley's camp when they never got the Jeff Horn fight last year. Horn's people were, we're going to give you the fight. Suddenly, someone, we don't know who, got hold of Horn's people, warned them of the dangers of Bradley Skeet, and his world title dreams were in tatters. And if you look at the welterweight division right now, there's so many people ahead of him in line who plans they've got for now and in the future, that he's another year, 18 months away from a world title if he kept defending the British title and fighting for international titles. And as Alan Smith said there, he could lose motivation and get defeated by someone he shouldn't lose to. So there's that worry there. The offer coming for this fight against Kerman Lejaraja, I'm not sure to pronounce it. Might be a Laraja. I'm not. You have different pronunciation with different letters.
What I've done with that name, Steve, because there's a J in there and it's Spanish, I've gone with ha rather than ja. So that's just me personally.
Lajaraja, right? Okay.
Lajaraja.
That's who he's fighting. Look, Lajaraja's an unknown quantity, totally. He's won 24, 19 by KO. So, he's got to be respected. But if you look at his record, apart from, there was Laszlo Toff on that record, whose name I know, and Denton Vassell, who he beat in a year or two ago. And all respect to Denton. Denton was, the last time, Denton had a really good win was against Ronnie Heffron 4 years earlier almost. Apart from that, he's met a who's who of Eastern Europeans who we use the elk who we usually see our young kids fight in their first 10 fights. So we don't know how good he is or how bad he is at all. So he's an unknown quantity. But you know what? Alan Smith's a very safe trainer with his fighters. He wouldn't be going there unless he was convinced Bradley was going to come home. He cares for his fighters, and he wouldn't take risks away from home. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a fight that Skeet has to win. As you say, for these any sort of world title aspirations that he has, he needs to get past the Kermans. We're going to call him Kerman, Steve. We're going to call him Kerman. You've got to get past the Kermans if he wants to fight the Thurmans. How about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to say, don't talk to me about Keith Thurman. He's given up. God, if we ever see him again, yeah, he's got to, he's got to wait for his chance. If he wins this should get him high up with the WBC. The EBU usually does that, and it's a chance that he has to take at this stage of his career. It's now time for him to kick on and deliver in style, and and I hope he can.
And just a note on the wider division, so Keith Thurman, who you recently ranted about, he's now vacated his WBC title. I think he's going to become some sort of a champion in recess while he's injured, but the WBC have ordered for Danny Garcia against Shawn Porter for the title. I've always said Danny Garcia is a very winnable fight for Skeet. I think he could play with him. He's too big for him. He's too tall.
The Danny Garcia we're seeing recently, or the inactive one, certainly a chance. Not the Danny Garcia who virtually ruined Lucas Matisse that night. That was a brilliant Danny Garcia who turned up that night, and the one who turned it round against Khan. I wouldn't quite go that far, but he wouldn't beat that. I wouldn't back him against that version of Danny Garcia, and that's no disrespect to Bradley Skeet at all. He was just an excellent welterweight, and when he beat Matisse, people were talking about him, Dev, as the man to beat Mayweather.
But that was at the weight division below. That was at 140 pounds. Bradley Skeet is 6'1". We've seen Garcia have problems before with the likes of Herrera, so that's where I get my confidence from.
Yeah, I get that. I still think the Mark 1 Danny Garcia would beat Bradley. Well, who was beating people at that time would move up and beat someone like Bradley. That's just my belief.
Well, these fights are hopefully in the future for Bradley Skeet. He is back 7 o'clock on Saturday night live on BoxNations. He's got an away trip. He's got an away day. He is going to Spain. He's going to Bilbao, and he's challenging for the vacant EBU welterweight title. 7 p.m. Saturday night. Do not miss it. Well, also live this weekend, we have a world title clash from Philadelphia. Late on Saturday night, that's after Bradley Skeets won the EBU title. Yeah, I said it. Undefeated WBO World Super Bantamweight champion Jesse Magdaleno defends his belt against undefeated babyface Ghanaian Isaac Dogboe. Steve Lillis gave the challenger Dogboe a call, and he's certainly a young man with a story.
Isaac, thanks for joining us on the BoxNation podcast, and we're just a few days away from a career-defining fight against Jesse Magdaleno. Give us your take on the fight.
Everyone knows that the UK was where my boxing all started, and I'm very grateful to everyone today, to all the fans out there, and to the Queen and country, because the support has been tremendous, and the journey so far has been great. It's been hard, but it's been great. So I just can't wait. This fight is just going to be a historic fight, and I'm very looking forward to it.
Give us your opinions on Jesse Magdaleno.
Well, Jesse Magdaleno is a good boxer. You can't take nothing away from him. He's a world champion. He beat a legend, Nonito Donet. However, it's my time now, so we've been very patient, preparing for this fight. We've been on the road for almost 4 or 5 years, and now the time has come. I know I'm going to go in there, full confidence that by the grace of God, I'm going to knock Jesse Magdaleno out, and everyone is going to be shocked.
What made you leave Britain? Because you had your first couple of fights here. What was the decision to leave Britain and go elsewhere to Ghana and America to continue your career?
Well, after having my pro debut in Switzerland and then one in Belfast, our father, said, it's better for you to be tested, than to be in a comfort place. Hence the reason we went on the road, so fight in America, in all those places, Ghana, New Zealand, and so it's just it's like he was actually testing me, because he says that look, to become a true champion, you have to make sure that you're fighting all sorts of people, all sorts of styles, and that's what's going to make you a true champion. So when you go there and you have a title, it will make it very difficult for someone else to take it from you, because already
you are in that territory, knowing that you can go anywhere, any place, anytime, any season and fight anyone that they put in front of you.
For listeners to the podcast who are unfamiliar, can you tell us a little bit about your background in Britain, how long you was here and where you boxed?
Well, I grew up in Britain, in Great Britain, and I schooled in Great Britain. I'm a South London kid, from Kennington. That's where everything started. I first started from Fisher Lodge, and then I joined the TN Army Boxing Club. Always training at Mikkel's Boxing Gym. Winning three national titles out of 4. The 4th one that I didn't win, I became the second, the finalist, national finalist. So, it's been great. I've had a tremendous support from the UK fans, and right now I think that it's like we are breaking into the global market. So I'm very appreciative to all the fans and all the support. Look, from the country, and the messages that are coming through, a lot of people are, really rooting me on to go and bring that title. So when we come to Great Britain, people will see that, look, hard work really pays off. And having that foundation from Great Britain has been great.
Do you still consider Kennington and Brixton your home, or is it now in Ghana?
Of course. Brixton is my home, man. Look, one of these days you have to come and see us down there, Steve.
Yeah, so you're still living in Brixton.
I don't know any other place than Brixton. Man. One of these days you have to come there. You have to come and see for yourself.
Yeah.
Because in September, after this fight, September, I'll be going back to uni. So everything is just like I said. I keep saying that my steps are divinely planned. So imagine being in university and you're a world champion.
That is what I was going to ask you. How can you study and graduate with flying colours and box at the same time? How can you combine both careers?
Many have done it before, and with the support of my father, I think it makes everything smooth. Because ever since I started boxing, I was in secondary school, and then my father used to always work his time around me. I don't have to stress because I'm not working. I'm not doing a 9-to-5 job or anything. So all he says to me, look, concentrate on your training, concentrate on everything, and everything is just gonna flow. So we just gotta take that same approach. I just have to have the focus, train, and my father train, sleep, rest, and study. Repeat, and everything will just be bliss.
Yeah, what are you studying and at what university?
I've applied to Cardiff, Sheffield, and Manchester.
And what?
I'm looking to study sociology.
Putting your studies to one side, what sort of training camp have yourself and your dad had for this fight?
We've had a tough one. We've had a camp where we've been. I came to the UK, start training, and then I went back to Ghana, and then came to the States. Right now we are in the States. We are in Pennsylvania. So it's been great. It's been tough. And I enjoy the travel too. It takes away all the stress. I can't wait. I just feel relaxed right now. And just come April 28th. I just can't wait, man. And BoxNation, you guys have televised my fight before, and this is gonna be another exciting fight, for BoxNation. It's going to be a big show, and I can't wait. It's going to be a cracker.
It could be a boring fight. We just want you to win and fly the flag for Brixton.
Most definitely. Every time I'm back in the UK, there's always something. I'm always getting inspired. Looking at all the great athletes, all the great people that are doing it big over there. So and then when I came to Ghana, it was fantastic meeting with Dame Catherine Granger, who was a Olympic gold medalist in swimming. she has some really great words to tell me. And look, like I said, I can't wait. I have a lot of people to impress. And come April 28th, a lot of people are going to believe that Isaac Royal Storm Dogboe, they're going to know who I am.
Well, that was Isaac Dogboe. Steve, are we, as the UK, going to claim Isaac Dogboe if he wins the world title on Saturday night?
He's one of our own. He's one of our own. Isaac Dogboe. He's one of our own. We're claiming him already. We don't just claim people when they're challengers or interim title holders. We're having him as our own. He lives in Kennington. He learned how to box in Britain. He's still around the Kennington and Brixton area. When I finish the interview, he wants the BoxNation cameras to go down to his gym in Brixton when he gets home next week. He's one of our own, and even better than him being one of our own, him against Magdaleno right now on paper looks a tremendous 50-50 fight. If anyone disagrees and wants to say Magdaleno will blow him apart in a round or two, or do this, do that, or Dogboe will do that, let us know beforehand on Twitter, you know, and that'd be good to hear, because I just see this as a fantastic, brilliant fight. Top class matchmaking by Top Rank there.
Absolutely. It's a good one, isn't it? And Dogboe, he's been kind of doing his own thing, and then he's emerged. It seemed to be his last performance where he started really turning heads, where he knocked out Cesar Juarez.
Yeah, that was a great win. And he also had a good win. I think it was on the Pacquiao Horn undercard in Accra against Javier Chacon. We also saw him on BoxNation when he won in New Zealand. He's well travelled. He turned professional, I think, in Belfast on a Barry McGuigan show. Then before that, he fought in Switzerland, then Belfast. And then he went over to America to continue in his career. And then his homeland, where he was born, Ghana, and has become a star in that part of Africa, and he's doing very, very well for himself. And he's a really nice young man. I remember meeting him before the Olympics. I don't think he's even boxed in Britain since about 2013. I think he was in the ABA final then, somewhere in the northeast. But he's done really well for himself, and he's in a terrific fight. And he's in with a good chance here. Magdaleno has been inactive through injury, and in that time, while Magdaleno's been inactive for a year, Dogboe has had 2 fights against Chacon and Juarez. So, and he starts really well, Dogboe, in fights. I expect him to really start well. And hey, if he's got a good lead after 6 rounds, Magdaleno's going to have to find something in the second half of the fight.
And also, just on a separate note, Marco Antonio Barrera was called the baby-faced assassin, right? For me, Dogboe has a much more of a baby face than Barrera ever did. I think Barrera was like a baby-faced assassin that looked, in his early 30s. He never really looked particularly young to me, whereas Dogboe, the guy looks about 15 years old.
I was going to say 14, believe it or not. No, I was going to say 14. You can imagine, you could be out with Mrs. S, right? Mrs. Dev Sani, having a little meal one night, and there'll be a guy who's a bit of a nuisance on the next table who started chatting to you, and you'd say, go away, son. You'd give him £1 to go and get a bag of wine gums and go home with you like a good boy. Imagine saying that. That's what you say to Isaac Dogboe. But hey, looks can deceive, and he's a fierce little warrior in the ring. And I'm really looking forward to Saturday night's card.
That looks to be an absolute cracker, Steve, and we'll be on air from midnight, late Saturday night for that one. It's part of the Top Rank output deal that BoxNation have. Someone's O has got to go. Will it be the O of Isaac Dogboe? Find out on Saturday night. Do you like that one, Steve?
I like it. That's good for you. You're delivering today, Dev. You are delivering. I'll tell you what, there's also a fight on that bill between Bryant Jennings and Joey Dorejko, and it's for the Pennsylvania state title. And the way people are talking it up in America or in Philadelphia, you wouldn't believe. They're calling it like the biggest all Philadelphia fight since 1982 and stuff like that. Russell Pelt, the co-promoter. That's the first fight on air, I think, just after midnight. So don't be waiting to tune in for the big super bantamweight clash. Tune in for that one just after midnight.
Well, everyone likes a heavyweight clash anyway. So, regardless of whether it's, what was it, the Pennsylvania, the biggest fight in Pennsylvania, did you say?
It's 1982, I read somewhere.
I mean, it's all happening on BoxNation. So, biggest heavyweight fight from Pennsylvania for, best part of 3-4 decades. And we've got Jesse Magdaleno against Isaac Dogboe, midnight, Saturday night. join us.
And Jesse Hart.
And
as well.
Jesse Hart.
Oh.
Jesse Hart's on as well. It's all happening. It's all happening. Belfast hero Carl Frampton returned to action over the weekend and beat the spirited and dangerous Filipino legend Nonito Donaire. It was a unanimous decision win with all three judges scoring the contest 117-111 for the Northern Irishman, and he moves on to a big summer fight at Windsor Park. Ronald McIntosh asked him how he felt about the performance, and there's a cameo from promoter Frank Warren in there too.
I knew I didn't want to, I didn't have to get involved in a fight there. I think at times my boxing was beautiful. Only one thing on my mind at the minute, Windsor Park, and I can't wait. I can't wait to get there.
That's all in the future. Let's reflect a little more on tonight, because as you say, he had some success in the 11th round. He appeared to have some success in round number 7 as well. How badly shaken up, if at all? How hurtful were his punches when he caught you on the ropes with those uppercuts?
He was a sharp puncher throughout, and the 11th round, I was definitely hurt. You'll admit it. People could see it. I'm not going to deny it. I was hurt, but I survived it, and that's what champions do. They survive. And Nonito Donaire, I'd just like to say what a nice man, and his team and everyone around him. Good people. Listen, I won the fight. Windsor Park. Let's do it.
Most certainly, the display that you produced, it was composed, it was cool. You controlled things, both from distance. You appeared physically stronger on the inside. How important was the game plan that you put together with Jamie Moore, and how pleased are you that you were able to stay disciplined and implement it so effectively?
I think Jamie deserves a lot of credit. The game plan was perfect, and we stuck to certain shots throughout the whole camp. And when I was on the outside, I was using my jab to the head and body, which is what we were doing in the gym. When it got close, I needed to be really close and use my strength, which I've done. I wasn't really in the middle distance too much, and when I was in the middle distance, I got caught. But look, I was fighting a world-class puncher, a world-class fighter, and I was a world-class gentleman. And look, I credit to Jamie for coming up with such a game plan.
Well, we're going to do Windsor Park. That's where we're going. We're going to be in Windsor Park in August. We're going to be there, and obviously all the bits will fall into place regarding who the opponent is over the next month or so. But Windsor Park is the next one. We promised it to Carl. We deliver.
Carl, how excited are you about the prospect of fighting outside Windsor Park this summer?
Everyone knows how excited I am. I can't wait for it, and there's not a man on this planet at featherweight that's going to beat me at Windsor Park. But I want to say one thing. Apparently there was another show somewhere else tonight. Tommy Coyle done the business. Well done, Tommy, and I'll see you next week.
And speaking to the media after the fight, Nonito Donaire was asked if Frampton was better than he thought.
Oh, a lot better than I thought, and tougher. I mean, I put everything in there. A lot of guys would just go down, but he just stood there like a wall. And I had fun. I had fun, and it was a great pleasure to be in the ring with a gentleman who's there at his best, and and I was at my best. I showed what I can do. I could beat my old self from who I was today. I was, the best man win tonight. And that was Carl. Carl was amazing tonight. And and it was a pleasure just being there. He was great. He was great. We came in there with everything that we got, and he was better tonight.
And for you, is this the end?
Oh no, you can't go at the end with a guy like this guy. Fight of the year, one of the best fighters. I mean, if I lost to somebody who was nothing, then that would be it. But I lost to a guy who I gave it all I got, who was incredible, and I know that he can beat anybody out there.
Steve, were you impressed with Carl Frampton's performance?
It was a fantastic performance. Patient, very wary of the damage that Nonito could still do. 7th round he was hurt. 11th round he was wobbled for sure.
Yeah.
He went back to the corner. I was speaking to Jamie Moore about this, and after the 9th round he said to Jamie Moore, I think I can get him out of there.
All right.
So Jamie was like, be careful. He might not be what he was, but the last thing you lose is your punch. He come back to the corner after the 11th round, and Jamie said, what did I tell you? Then there wasn't, look, Frampton was fantastic. He deserves all the plaudits he's getting. Then there wasn't the fault he was, and I said on the podcast last week, he was talking like a 35-year-old who wanted to see what was left. And that was the impression I got in the ring at times. But you cannot detract from Carl Frampton's magnificent performance. There was pressure on him. He was up against a big name who's won 4-weight world champion. There was the promise of the big fight, the dream, the ambition to fight at Windsor Park in August. That was there. There was pressure on him. The crowd was sold out. He delivered in style. Again, it's one of those. Plenty of people fancy Frampton to win, but for not being far off a shutout, very few people. Very pleasing performance, much better than the Horacio Garcia performance. And I was really pleased for Jamie Moore the other night because he had a lot of stick, about suddenly you've got this stable, blah blah blah. He showed, he wasn't just born to fight. He was born to train. And I think that was a great night for Jamie as well. Stephen Ward won. Tommy Cole had a good win in Liverpool finally. Won a major belt against Masha Dodd. Of course, Conrad Cummins got defeated. But the two biggest fights of the night for him, both men won. And Carl Frampton, any doubts we had about how much Carl might have left in the tank after the Garcia fight was certainly put to rest. And even more so, I forgot to mention, he's still got ongoing ongoing issues, should we say, with his former promoter going on in the background. So huge credit to Carl Frampton.
Yeah, he looked good, and he made the weight well as well. I think something that had been overlooked is that his last couple of fights he'd either struggled with the weight or the weight had been made maybe a pound or so above the featherweight limit. This time he was on the scales 126. Actually, he was under 126, and he looked good, and he looked better than I've seen him in a while.
Yeah, I think he's working with some diet people at Manchester City. I think Kerry Tate might be helping him as well, because I noticed he's close to Jamie. He would be giving him some advice. He always did help Ricky Hatton with his weight, and he was one of the unsung heroes of the Hatton camp. And I think he's working with at Manchester City. You don't live up here, Dev, but I live about 4 miles from their training complex. And
I'm a big Man United fan, by the way.
I know. And they've got an incredible complex, and the sports science there at Manchester City, what I read about it, is second to none in the country. And Carl, like other boxers like Terry Flanagan, is benefiting from that.
So August, they seem to be set on August. Frank Warren and Carl Frampton for a big night at Windsor Park. Who is going to stand in the opposite corner, Steve?
$25-30 million question. We don't say we don't know on this podcast, even though we don't know. But look, Oscar Valdez, it seems his jaw injury is going to keep him out for a bit longer. And I saw a picture of Oscar Valdez the other day, and he looked healthy and didn't look overweight or anything.
Okay.
But you can still you have a look and you could still see the left side of his jaw looked a little bit distorted. So he looked still out. And Frank Warren said to me a while ago, it's quite a serious injury. Warrington-Selby, if Warrington wins, then you can't see it being Warrington, because you've got one guy that's going to selling 20-odd thousand at Ellen Road against one guy selling 20,000 at Windsor Park. Do you let them both go in together when they can, at this stage, knowing what the business they can bring when they're both at home? But certainly it's a fight, could happen, but from a business point of view, does it make sense? Great.
You could do two of them, Steve. You can do two of them. If Warrington wins, go to Windsor Park, then go Ellen Road.
Ellen Road next summer. You don't rule that out. That's a good shout, Dev. I'd imagine if Selby beat Warrington, that could be very likely. I'm not sure of the contract situation with Frank Warren. I may be wrong. I think it was a 2-fight deal initially. That's what Selby's spoken like anyway, for sure.
But he'll want the Frampton fight.
Selby Frampton, I say, is the likeliest. If Warrington wins, we haven't got to, his decision's got to be made. Gary Russell's fighting pretty soon against Joseph Diaz. That rules him out. And Leo Santa Cruz is fighting Abner Mares. So it would have to be, a semi-name, certainly, to go outdoors. Although, Frampton's the sort of guy could fight me or you and they'd flock to Windsor Park. But
well, that's just it. And not quite me and you, but say that there's an issue with Valdez and, he has to vacate the title because he's going to be out too long. Maybe they make it in such a way that he can come back and definitely fight for it straight away. But it could be Carl Frampton versus someone from high up in the WBO rankings for a vacant title. You never know. And then there's no real names in there, but it's all about Frampton winning a world title that night.
That's right. But, and it'll also be nice. But even though you're going outdoors, broadcasters around the road will still want a semi-decent name.
Yeah.
So that's the problem they've got. But, I think after Lee Selby, Josh Warrington, early June, there's still plenty of time. They're looking at an August date, I dare say mid-August or something. So you've still got, till maybe the end of May before you announce the date and who's in line. There's still time on their side. We are talking something, a date, possibly a couple of weeks before, we're saying inverted commas, the new boxing season starts. So that seems to run all the year round. There's still time, but I'm sure over the next 4 weeks, Frank Warren and his team and MTK team who manage Carl Frampton will come up with ideas.
Well, we'll be back in Belfast on June the 30th. Frank Warren announced last week that Michael Conlan's homecoming will take place at the SSE Arena in Belfast. That's a co-promotion with Top Rank. It's going to be another big night, and it's going to be live on BoxNation. Now, last Saturday night was a busy night for boxing, both in the UK and internationally. Amir Khan returned to action in his first fight since the knockout loss to Canelo Alvarez, and he made quick and light work of a perhaps overmatched Phil LaGreco. He took just 40 seconds to put the Canadian away and was then kind of confronted, or kind of semi-confronted, by Kell Brook. Steve, you see that? What did you make of it?
What, the fight or Kell Brook? The Kell Brook confrontation lasted longer. You know what? I'm not. You know what? I'm going to take nothing away from Amir in the performance. Again, it's one of those fights. We all expected him to beat Phil LaGreco. He was there to give him rounds. No one said he'd do him in 40 seconds. All credit to Amir there. But what we learned from it was Amir's still got fast hands. We still got that same, should we say, issue, problem, whatever you want to say with Amir. It's as a fight unravels. When Amir gets a little bit slower, when he's in range for a split second longer, he starts getting caught and beaten. Then we saw that against Canelo Alvarez. He dominated him for 4 rounds. Then Canelo started getting in range, and we all know what happened.
Yeah.
Danny Garcia, it's the question we want to know about Amir. What does he do? This Amir who's in the twilight of his career, who says he's coming into his peak now. What I want to see is what happens when Amir is in a fight, when a fight starts getting tougher, 5 or 6 rounds down the line against a good fighter. That's what we're waiting to see again. What we learned the other night, the hands are as quick as ever, and it was fantastic to see. But Amir's problem has always been, as a fight unravels and as an opponent works out what he's doing, and he slows up that tiny little bit, and that's the difference between him dominating fights again and getting knocked out. So until we see what happens in a hard fight, we won't know what's left with Amir Khan. But, props for the other night, even if the celebration was a little bit sort of stuff reserved for when you unify 5 world titles on one night at different weights.
But, Steve, let's not forget he'd just beaten a world-class opponent.
Yeah, hey, nothing wrong with LaGreco. He was not world class, Eddie. You know that. He wasn't world class. There was nothing wrong with him for someone who's been out for 2 years after being left in a heap unconscious on the floor. Nothing wrong at all. But he was not world class. There was nothing wrong with the fight. What was wrong was afterwards. What was said that he was world class.
And for any listeners not detecting that was my sarcasm there, because he was described as a world-class opponent in the build-up. I was raging, Steve. I was fuming, Steve. He's a world-class. He's not elite world-class, but he's world-class. No, come on, pack it in. So he's not world-class, but Khan looked good. So who's next for Amir Khan?
Oh, you know what? The fight I'd love to see would be him against Adrian Broner.
Yeah, I think that's
in this country, Broner will come over here. He'd sell the hell out of it.
Yeah.
He will be going back to Anthony Joshua, reference to Khan's
Of course he will.
wife, other controversies that Amir's been involved in Skype. He would cause havoc. And you know what? The casuals would buy into that fight so much.
Yeah.
And over at Sky, they'd have a pay-per-view fight on their hands. It's not going to do millions and millions, but it would be a success.
It's a high value fight, and it's a very winnable fight for Khan. Broner can't really do a lot at welterweight. I think he's won a world title there, but But come on, as soon as he comes up to a certain level of opposition at these higher weights, he does sort of unravel somewhat. So, there was the kind of confrontation between Kell Brook and Amir Khan, where Amir Khan said, I've actually signed to your promoter and I'm chasing you. And then he kind of ran away, which was quite amusing to me. But Steve, I'm going to put this out there now. I don't think that fight is going to happen so long as Amir Khan has other options. I think Khan holds all the cards here. He can go and fight, your Garcias, your Broners, as we talked about. I think Kell Brook is really in a bad place again and scratching around for an opponent.
He'll get fights, Kell Brook, but I think Amir's going to, as you say, wait till all the cards have hit the deck as such.
He'll need to lose
in the sense that the fight, as you know, I know Amir really well, right? Because I live near up here in Manchester, and so I see him quite a bit. And the fight that, what he wants more than I think anything is the Garcia rematch. If Garcia beats Porter, there's a natural rematch. Hey, look, if Garcia doesn't happen, if Broner doesn't happen, then there's Brook to fall back onto. That's what I'd say. So, you could say Brook's like a third choice at the moment.
Yeah, and maybe even lower than that, to be honest. I think he'd take a Thurman. He's been talking about Errol Spence. I think on the Kell Brook side, what I can see happening with him is I could see Liam Smith, there's a few things happening here, but I could see Liam Smith winning the WBO Super Welterweight title. Kell Brook's team will see him as perhaps a less difficult fight than Jarrett Hurd, who's just, banged out. He's just done Erislandy Lara and looked pretty good in that fight. Less difficult fight than one of the Charlo twins, Jamel, who's got the WBC belt. And they'll look at Liam Smith and maybe they'll make an offer, or maybe Frank will make an offer for Kell Brook to come and fight Liam Smith. We've got a big British dust-up world title fight there.
Yeah, as that's another option. I think, it's sort of been mooted quietly before. That's very possible. I think, I think Kell's going to box again in September. And I still think he'll fight someone who's on the fringes of world class or a decent, an okay opponent. And then, once that's out of the way in July, you'll get round to September, and then it'll be a lot clearer what's happening in December, say, with Amir Khan and what's going to happen with other world titles. I think it'll be a lot clearer later in the year. But as you say, at the moment, Kell's in limbo land a little bit.
Yeah, exactly that. So over in the States on Saturday night as well, there were big wins for Jamal Charlo, who's the middleweight, and Gervonta Davis on a card headlined by Adrian Broner against Jesse Vargas. That fight was a draw. So Jamal Charlo, good, quick knockout, then called out Golovkin. He said, I want GGG. I want to talk about it. And it all looked very good. It made for good TV. And he keeps his name in that kind of, he's getting his name into that 160 mix.
Yeah, look, he's going well. Both twins are, aren't they? They're becoming, secret sort of, not sleepers in the division, but they're starting to get publicity. They're picking up. I think Jamal, had that second round blowout the other night. He's 27-0, 21 by KO. It's going so well for them both. And you certainly think that certainly in the next, at the moment, you've got the Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo, Danny Jacobs, of course, Golovkin before him. But when you look at the next batch of middleweights, like he's got this interim WBC type, they're like the men who say the A. But on the Bs, about to jump and join the A's is Jamal Charlo. And we mentioned earlier that, in Billy Joe Saunders, it'd be a good fight. He's the one who's about to jump from B to A. By the end of this year, I think he's going to be up there. I mean, I'm a big fan of both the Charlo brothers.
Yeah, they've got a bit of X factor about them. I like them.
And you know what? And, and the thing is, what America, again, we discussed this, I think, on the podcast recently. We need them to be pushed and show a bit of PR because we saw that ringside at the Mayweather show, Spence, the Charlo twins, some great fighters there, but what do they mean to the casual in America? Nothing. The twins are the sort use their personalities by shouting people out and getting known.
Exactly that. Gervonta Davis become a 2-time world champion on that show as well. I mean, Tank is looking good.
The Tank is good. He's more than good, Dev. And I just, he's got that bad boy image, but I just hope that nothing will be in a bad boy. People talk about him, but a bad boy for the right reasons. I don't want to be reading about him becoming, Mayweather-esque with 25 cars until he's got 6 world titles in the bin. I just want him to keep winning world titles and showing what a good fighter he is. The thing that worries me is how much further he can go up, Dev, because of that height. But while he's here, we really enjoyed him. And we just like we really enjoyed him against Liam Walsh last year. We didn't enjoy the result for Liam, but we enjoyed his performance. He showed then when he was up against the wall, away from home and hostilities, how good he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a glimpse into the future. I think he's a real blue chip fighter we've got on our hands there. And obviously that card over in America was headlined by Adrian Broner against Jesse Vargas. They fought an entertaining fight which ended up in a draw, and there was a probably more entertaining post-fight interview exchange between the two of them, which brings us nicely onto the next part of the show, which everyone's been waiting for. What you talking about, Lillis?
Oh, what am I talking about? You just said it. It's Adrian Broner. What a pain in the backside he is away from the ring. He really is. This stuff the other night in his post-fight interview where, it's gay men. When you go at it, it's gay. And then he said the remark about Mexicans go and eat chicken and all that sort of thing. Now, that to me is racist.
It's in poor taste, isn't it?
But it's poor taste. People will laughed about that, and these people who laugh want to, if the shoe was on the other foot. If Jesse Vargas, who's got a bit of class about him, he wouldn't do it, has said something about, Broner should go and eat some chicken, that he would have been abused so bad, and he would have been hauled up. Broner gets away with so much, and he really is a little, I could use stronger language than that.
Well, not on my podcast, Steve.
He's an out-and-out wrong-un away from the ring. You know what? If he kept that ridiculous gob shut of these, he would be respected so much. Okay, he's not a good 4-weight world champion. He won't be respected as a 4-weight world champion. But, he's from Cincinnati. A blue-collar sporting town, one of the great sporting cities in America. Real working-class heroes are in that town. And he will be a working-class hero from that town because every fight he goes in, that he's a good fights. He leaves it in there. Okay, we all laugh when he lost to Medina, but what a good fight that was.
Yeah.
Granados, that was a good fight. Saturday, a good fight. He did his bit against Mikey Garcia. He's not in bad fights. Imagine if he was just a nice guy who kept his mouth shut and didn't flush $100 bills down the toilet. He would be respected as one. He would be one of the fans' favourites in boxing because he's in good fights and he entertains us in the ring.
Well, he was certainly very entertaining in the build-up, and after the fight. But there was the press conference beforehand. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but he really dug into Leonard Ellerby for not being behind him.
We're quite digging into Leonard. Leonard's been, getting him in the Mayweather gym. He's been boxing on these shows. Leonard's one of the reasons he's earning money. Leonard and Mayweather. I just don't look. As a boxer, I'll watch him in the ring because we know you're going to get a good fight all the time, Dev. Away from the ring, I don't want to hear no more from him.
Now we are a 24/7 boxing channel, and here's what's coming up. There is more live boxing. We told you that we've got 3 live shows in the space of 24 hours. Well, Friday night, 2 a.m., BoxNation have acquired the broadcasting rights to the WBC Jose Sulaiman World Invitational Welterweight Tournament. So this has got Evander Holyfield involved, and that's not him cutting off both of his legs and coming back down to 147 pounds. It's his promotional banner, Real Deal Sports. So this is a tournament at welterweight spanning 3 fight nights with quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then a final. The quarterfinals take place this Friday night. Steve, are you excited about this one?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what it's about. These tournaments are quite good for boxing, and I know Brad Solomon, I know Chris Van Herdeen, Timo Schwarzkopf. I know of those guys in it. You know what? Okay, they're like, you can say they're currently, they're not A-list fighters, but whoever wins that will end up copping a nice few quid, and will most probably get a big fight for a world title.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? It's not the the high profile tournament full of A and B level guys. This is kind of the level below that, but a star will emerge. It's kind of similar to the ESPN Boxino tournaments that would happen.
That's right. And and Boxino fighters tend to get world titles, don't they? Some of them. There was the guy, was it John Thompson? Was it who fought?
Exactly.
Liam Smith had won one. I think he'd won one of those. I think Diaz is the one people are talking about as the man to beat. Obviously, Van Herdeen's one to look at as well.
And if you're thinking, Chris Van Heerden, where have I heard that name before? Well, most famously recently in the build-up to Conor McGregor against Floyd Mayweather, #MayMac, Chris Van Heerden was the guy who had sparred with Conor McGregor, and that video had kind of gone viral to demonstrate Conor McGregor's lack of boxing skills. That's the guy, isn't it, Steve?
That's the guy, and also he's well known. He was well known for a war of words. There was talk with Frankie Gavin. There was talk of that fight happening. The British link with him now. I think about 5 years ago, he did end the career of Matthew Hatton in Johannesburg in Matthew's final fight. Since then, I think he's had about 6 or 7 wins, and he did lose to Errol Spence in 8 rounds.
Yeah,
I think he's up against Schwarzkopf in his first round, his quarterfinal match on Friday night. So he'll be the favourite to win that. I think Schwarzkopf is one of these Kosovans who isn't really called Schwarzkopf. They just changed it to that name when he moved to Germany. Pretty much like Felix Sturm. So that's to look forward to Saturday night, and early hours of Saturday morning, Friday night. That fight is one of the 4 we've got on. But fantastic weekend of boxing. 3 great cards inside 25 hours on BoxNation.
Oh God, it's just what we do, isn't it? But before all of that, Friday at 7 o'clock. Bunce's Boxing Hours. That's Steve Bunce and Barry Jones. They will look ahead. They will preview these pre-live shows in the space of 24 hours. It's going to be incredible. That'll be live and free to air on Sky Channel 437. Saturday, live from 7 o'clock, Bradley Skeet. He's going to Spain. He's going to bring back the EBU welterweight title, and he's going to start making some statements. Saturday, live from midnight, Jesse Magdaleno against Isaac Dogboe. Dogboe wins, he becomes an honorary Brit, and we know it. He lives in Britain. We're going to claim him. We're going to drape that flag on him when he comes home with the world title. And Monday, I'm taking you into Monday next week, 7 o'clock, Boxing Matters. Alex Steedman sitting down with a couple of journalists and chewing the fat over everything that matters in boxing. There is no better time to subscribe to BoxNation. We've still got the free registration offer going for Sky customers too. So usually it's £8 registration fee, but from the 16th of April, which was last week, up until the 19th of May, if you use the offer code CHAMPIONS, then we're just going to wipe that reg fee off. We're being good to you week after week of classic, brilliant action. So Steve, another great week, another great show. Frank Warren, Billy Joe Saunders, Carl Frampton, Isaac Dogboe, list goes on and on. Did you have fun?
We had fun. The big podcast and the big names come to our game, don't they, eh?
Oh, all the time. And guys, how about an iTunes review? I'm going to make you a deal here now. Listen very carefully. I've seen this work for other podcasts. For everyone that leaves a review, I'm going to follow you. How about that? Not necessarily across any social media or, Instagram or anything like that. I'm just going to follow you. So when you go to work, I'll be there. Yeah, when you go to the gym, I'll be there. When you get home, I'll be there. So there is your motivation. Write me a review and I'll follow you. What do you think to that, Steve?
Ah, brilliant. You're like the man with the biggest heart in Britain today, aren't you? You made Isaac Dogboe a Brit. You're following people on social media. Your heart's so big. If I was outside your house now, I'd sit out there and ask for 50 quid when you walk out, mate, to go out where you're going next.
And I'd probably give it to you, Steve. Remember to subscribe to the best boxing channel in the world, 24/7 boxing at boxnation.com. Tweet us any comments at BoxNation TV, at Steve Lillis, at Sani Dev. God, this weekend we've got 3 live shows in the space of 24 hours.